Dominic Torres slammed his diagnostic tablet against the workbench, causing several nearby tools to clatter to the floor. 3 weeks of searching for the leak in the colony starship's propellant system, and he was no closer to finding the problem than when he started. "Easy with the equipment, Torres. That stuff's worth more than your monthly salary," called Foreman Jenkins from across the hangar bay. Dominic ran calloused fingers through his curly black hair and sighed. "Sorry, sir, it's just that. These readings make no sense. The propellant levels keep dropping, but there's no breach, no malfunction, nothing in the logs. It's like the quantum fuel is just vanishing." The foreman approached, his weathered face creasing with concern as he examined the readouts. Outpost Helios was humanity's furthest settlement from Earth, and their survival depended on the colony's single starship remaining operational. Without it, supply runs would be impossible. "Director Okafor wants answers by tomorrow morning," Jenkins said, his voice lowered. "The Council is considering suspending all non-essential operations to conserve resources." Dominic's stomach nodded. That would mean layoffs, yes. Starting with maintenance personnel who can't solve simple fuel leaks. After Jenkins left, Dominic stared at the massive cylindrical tanks that housed the ship's quantum propellant. The iridescent blue-green liquid was worth more than gold out here at the edge of explored space. Each drop lost represented lives potentially at risk. "There has to be something I'm missing," he muttered, pulling up the schematics again on his tablet. The ship's monitoring system showed another 1.8% drop in fuel levels since morning. At this rate, they'd have to cancel next month's supply run to the neighboring mining outpost. That meant no medicine, no fresh food, and definitely no spare parts. As the night shift began, Dominic waved away his coworkers' invitations to grab a drink at the outpost's only bar. Instead, he settled in for a long night of manually checking every centimeter of the propellant system. "I'm going section by section tonight," he told the night supervisor. "No more relying on sensors and computers." Hours passed as Dominic crawled through maintenance tunnels, checked valve seals, and tested pressure in every line. His uniform was stained with grease and sweat by the time he reached the aft storage compartment where the backup propellant tanks were housed. The room was dimly lit and rarely visited, except during refueling operations. As Dominic swept his flashlight across the massive tanks, something caught his eye, a faint pulsing glow coming from behind the furthest tank. "Hello?" he called out, wondering if another technician was working back there. No response. Dominic squeezed between the tanks, his hand instinctively moving to the utility knife on his belt. The glow intensified as he approached, an ethereal light that seemed to shift between teal and violet. When he finally edged around the final tank, Dominic froze, his flashlight clattering to the floor. Crouched beside an open access panel was a figure unlike anything he'd ever seen. Humanoid, but clearly not human, with translucent skin that pulsed with internal light. The being appeared young, perhaps adolescent, with delicate features and flowing tendrils instead of hair. Most shocking of all, it was drinking directly from an exposed propellant line, the deadly fuel flowing into its mouth like water. The creature turned, its pupilless eyes widening in alarm as it spotted Dominic. The propellant line fell from its mouth, spattering the toxic liquid across the floor. Neither moved for what felt like eternity. "You're single, drinking our fuel." Dominic finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. The creature's skin flashed brighter in what seemed like panic. Then, to Dominic's utter astonishment, it spoke. "Please," it said in accented but understandable English. "I must survive." Dominic's hand trembled as he picked up his fallen flashlight, keeping his eyes fixed on the alien. Every safety protocol demanded he sound the alarm immediately. Unauthorized lifeforms on the outpost were considered an extreme threat. Yet something held him back. The creature looked scared. "You understand me?" he asked, keeping his distance. The being nodded, tendrils of light floating around its head like underwater plants. "I learn languages quickly. I've been listening to your people for weeks." Dominic's mind raced. "You've been hiding here, stealing our propellant? Do you know what you've done? This outpost depends on that fuel." "Not stealing," the alien said. a ripple of purple shame coloring its luminescent skin, surviving. Your quantum propellant contains energy signatures similar to what my body needs to live. Dominic leaned against a tank, trying to process this revelation. What are you? Where did you come from? My name is Ashara, the alien said, its voice melodic and gentle, despite the tension. My kind are called Luminae. I was separated from my migration cluster during an ion storm. My escape pod landed on your outpost's outer hull 3 cycles ago. And you've been drinking our fuel since then? Dominic asked, beginning to understand the mysterious losses. Ishara nodded. Take only what I need. I tried to be careful. Dominic ran a hand over his face. You do realize that stuff is toxic to humans, highly radioactive and corrosive? Your biology processes energy differently, Ishara explained. What is poison to you is sustenance to me. The cum unit on Dominic's belt crackled. Torres, status report. You've been in Section 7 for over an hour. Dominic hesitated, looking at the alien whose skin now pulsed with anxiety. One call would bring security running. The being would be captured, probably dissected by the science team. All clear in Section 7, he responded, just being thorough. Moving to Section 8 now. After signing off, he turned back to Ashara. You can't stay here. Director Okafor has ordered a full security sweep tomorrow. They'll find you. I have nowhere else to go, Ishara said, desperation evident in her voice. Without the energy from your propellant, I will fade. Dominic made a decision that would change everything. My quarters. It's not much, but it's private. I can bring you small amounts of propellant, just enough to keep you alive until we figure something out. Ishara's skin brightened with hope. You would help me? I must be crazy, Dominic muttered. But yes, now we just need to get you there. Without being seen, as they crept through the maintenance tunnels toward the residential section, Dominic wondered what madness had possessed him. If caught harboring an alien life form, he'd face imprisonment or worse. Yet watching Ashara move with graceful, flowing motions ahead of him, her body emanating gentle pulses of light that she struggled to dim, Dominic couldn't bring himself to regret his choice. There was something mesmerizing about her, something that spoke to his instinct to protect rather than fear. We're almost there, he whispered, as they approached the lower-tier residential area where maintenance staff was housed. Just stay close and try to keep your ... glow to a minimum. 3 days had passed since Dominic smuggled Ashara into his cramped quarters. 3 days of sneaking small containers of propellant from the maintenance bay and watching in fascination as she consumed the toxic liquid. Quantum energy directly? He asked, sitting across from her at his small table. Ishara nodded, her luminescence dimmed to a soft glow in the darkened room. My species evolved near energy vortices on our homeworld. We absorb pure energy and convert it to biological functions. That's incredible, Dominic said, unable to hide his fascination. On Earth, my homeworld, there are creatures that evolve to consume almost anything. Metal, radiation, sulfur vents, but nothing like you. A chime from his tablet interrupted them. Dominic checked the message and groaned. Director Okafor has called an emergency meeting. Propellant levels have stabilized since you've been here, and they're wondering why. He looked up at Ishara. We need a better solution than me stealing fuel forever. Ishara's expression grew thoughtful, her skin shifting to a contemplative. Blue, perhaps I can help. My people are natural energy manipulators. We don't just consume energy, we can enhance and redirect it. What exactly are you saying? I could modify your propulsion systems to operate more efficiently. The small amount I need to survive would be offset by the improvements I could make. Dominic stared at her. You can do that? With your assistance, yes. I understand energy flow, but I need someone who understands your technology. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Ishara immediately moved to the small bathroom there, agreed-upon hiding spot. Dominic opened the door to find Valentina Ruiz, the outpost's head of security, standing in the corridor. Torres, she said curtly. May I come in? Dominic reluctantly stepped aside. What's this about, Chief Ruiz? Valentina's sharp eyes scanned his quarters. Random inspections. We've had some anomalies lately. Strange energy readings in the residential section. Dominic's heart raced. Probably just power fluctuations. The grid's been unstable since we started rationing. Perhaps, she said, unconvinced, though the readings seemed to move around. Almost as if something living were causing them. As she spoke, Valentina moved toward the bathroom door. Dominic stepped forward quickly. Look, I was just heading to this emergency meeting. Can we do this another time? Valentina paused, her hand inches from the bathroom panel. The meeting, yes. Interesting how our propellant problem suddenly resolved itself, isn't it? Almost. As if whatever was causing the leak has found another source. I've been working on efficiency improvements, Dominic said, the half-truth tumbling out. Recalibrated the intake valves, adjusted the quantum flow regulators, without authorization. I was going to present my findings at the meeting. They'd say, worked. Valentina studied him for a long moment. I've always known you were good at your job, Torres. Just make sure that's all you're doing. After she left, Ishara emerged, her skin pulsing with anxiety. She suspects something, Dominic said. Gathering his tablet, we need to implement your improvements soon. Make your presence valuable before they discover you. Ishara placed a delicate hand on his arm, sending a pleasant, tingling sensation through his skin. Thank you for protecting me. My people believe that debts of survival create the strongest bonds between beings. For the first time since finding her, Dominic smiled genuinely. On my world, we just call that friendship. The maintenance bay was deserted during night cycle perfect for their clandestine operation. Dominic had brought Ishara to implement her promised improvements to the propulsion system. The approach is elegant but inefficient, she explained, her fingers hovering over the engine core's access panel. Your technology treats quantum energy as a fuel to be consumed, not a flow to be directed. Dominic watched in amazement as Ishara's hands began to glow. Tendrils of energy extending from her fingertips into the ship's systems. The control panels flickered, then stabilized with readings he'd never seen before. What are you doing exactly? He asked. Reconfiguring the quantum field harmonics, she said, her voice taking on a resonant quality. Your engines fight against natural energy patterns. I'm teaching them to flow with these patterns instead. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the outpost. Dominic rushed to a communication terminal. Attention all personnel, came Director Okoffer's voice. Unidentified vessel approaching. All security teams to defense stations. This is not a drill. Shara's luminescence dimmed dramatically, her body trembling. They've found me. Who? What are you talking about? Harvesters, she whispered. Terror evident in her voice. They hunt. My kind across the stars. They... ... Farm us for our energy manipulation abilities? Dominic's security clearance gave him access to the outpost's external cameras. The approaching ship was unlike any he'd seen, sleek, predatory, with blood-red markings along its hull. The improvements, Ishara said urgently. We must complete them now. Your outpost's defenses are insufficient against harvester technology. They worked frantically, Ishara, channeling energy into the systems, while Dominic implemented the necessary mechanical changes. As they finished, Valentina Ruiz's voice came over the comm system. Torres, report to the command center immediately. We know about your alien. Dominic froze, looking at Ishara. How the energy signature from the modifications? She explained. It's distinctly Lumine. The harvesters would have detected it, and your sensors would recognize the pattern now. We need to get you out of here before the maintenance. Bay doors slid open. Valentina stood there with 2 armed guards. Step away from the alien, Torres, she ordered, weapon raised. Chief Ruiz, you don't understand, Dominic started. I understand perfectly. That creature has been draining our resources. And now it's compromised our propulsion systems right as an unknown hostile approaches. The timing seems convenient. Ishara stepped forward, her glow intensifying. I did not bring them here. Been hiding from them? The modifications I've made will help defend against them. A voice crackled over the outpost's communication system, cold, mechanical, and deeply unsettling. Outpost Helios, this is Harvester Command. We detect a Luminae energy signature aboard your station. Surrender the specimen immediately or face elimination. Director Okafor's voice responded, "This is Director Okafor. We were unaware of any alien presence until moments ago. We have contained the entity and are prepared to discuss terms." Dominic looked between Valentina and Ashara, realizing, with horror, what was about to happen. They were going to hand her over. "You can't give her to them," Dominic said, stepping between Ashara and the security team. "The harvesters don't just want her, they'll drain her energy until there's nothing left. They're killers, not collectors." Director Okafor entered the maintenance bay, his tall figure commanding attention. "The harvester vessel has weapons locked on our habitat rings. They're threatening to decompress the civilian quarters if we don't comply." "And you believe they'll just leave peacefully after you hand over Ashara?" Dominic challenged. "Director, the modifications she's made to our systems have increased efficiency by over 300%. She's not a threat, she's our greatest asset." Moved forward, her luminescence pulsing with determination. "Your outpost doesn't need to be defenseless. My people have evaded harvesters for generations. I can help you." Director Okafor studied her with wary curiosity. "How? The improvements I've made to your propulsion system can be adapted to your defense grid. I can create an energy field that will disrupt their targeting systems." The outpost shuddered as the harvester ship fired a warning shot. "We have minutes, not hours," Valentina warned. "Then let us work quickly," Ashara said, turning to Dominic. Together, Director Okafor hesitated, then nodded. "Do it. Yeah, but Chief Rui stays with you. Weapons ready." Dominic and Ashara moved to the central defense control panel. Her fingers again extended those mesmerizing tendrils of energy, while he implemented the necessary command sequences. "What exactly are we creating?" he asked as they worked. "A resonance field that mirrors the harvester's own energy signatures," she explained. "Their weapons will be unable to lock onto anything that doesn't match their targeting parameters." As they completed the modifications, the outpost's lights dimmed momentarily before returning brighter than before. On the monitor, they could see the harvester ship's weapon ports glowing as they prepared to fire. "Now," Ashara whispered, placing both hands on the control panel. Her entire body blazed with light so intense that everyone shielded their eyes. Energy coursed from her into the outpost's systems, circling the station in a shimmering field visible even on the monitors. The harvester stand. Their energy weapons dissipated harmlessly against the field. "It's working," Valentina breathed. In astonishment, Ashara maintained the connection, though Dominic could see the effort draining her. "Their secondary systems will compensate soon," she said through gritted teeth. "You need to fire back now while they're recalibrating." Director Okafor gave the command, and the outpost's modest defense batteries launched their counterattack. Under normal circumstances, their weapons would have barely scratched the harvester's hull, but channeled through Ashara's energy field, they struck with devastating precision. The harvester vessel listed to one side, its engines sputtering. "They're retreating," someone called out. Ishara collapsed as the energy field dissipated. Dominic caught her before she hit the floor, her skin now pale and barely glowing. "She needs energy," he explained urgently to the others. "Propellant now." To his surprise, Director Okafor immediately ordered a container brought forward. Give her what she needs. As Ashara slowly consumed the propellant, color returning to her luminescent skin, Director Okafor addressed the gathered staff. "It seems we've misjudged our visitor. Not only has she improved our systems beyond anything our engineers thought possible, but she's also defended us against a threat we couldn't have withstood alone. He turned to Ishara, who was now sitting up with Dominic's support. I believe we owe you our gratitude, and perhaps an offer. Outpost Helios could use an energy specialist. The position would come with official status, quarters, and a regular allotment of propellant for your ... dietary needs. Ishara looked up in surprise, then at Dominic, who couldn't hide his smile. I would be honored, she said, her skin rippling with joyful colors. Later, as Dominic helped Ishara to her new quarters properly assigned and adjacent to his own shy, paused in the corridor. Your people accepted me much more easily than I expected, she said. After generations of hiding, I didn't think it possible. Dominic squeezed her hand gently, enjoying the now familiar tingle of energy between them. That's the thing about humans. We adapt. We learn. And sometimes we surprise ourselves with how quickly we can change our minds when shown a better way. Ishara's tendrils floated upward in what he'd come to recognize as her equivalent of a smile. Perhaps that is why the harvesters fear human outposts. Not for your weapons, but for your capacity to form alliances with beings like me. Well, Dominic said, this is just the beginning of one alliance I'm particularly looking forward to exploring. As they entered her new quarters, luminescence brightened in response, filling the room with a warm, inviting glow that felt remarkably like coming home.